Hey guys, Straya guy in China here, and I've decided to give you a special video today. You see, a lot of my videos lately have been about things that I've missed in China or delicious foods and that from different regions, and I thought, well, why not show you a little bit about Australian cuisine, the foods that are famous here in Australia. Now, I want to put out a little disclaimer before I start. You see, there are some foods out there that are, well, more of an older generation thing, like damper, for example. It's famous, but yet it's not so commonplace here in Australia these days. In my opinion, it's more of an oldies type thing, so I won't be including that. And that being said as well, there is probably a ridiculous amount of like Aboriginal recipes that I have no idea about that, to be honest, the recipes are probably older than some people's countries out there that have been around that long. But again, not so commonplace that the average person consumes it or thinks about it unless they went to some kind of, like, you know, really rural area or tourist trap perhaps, and they were getting more in touch with history, I guess. So I won't be including them. So that put aside, let's get started on some of these. I've divided it into two categories. So there's a category of kind of recipes and things that we cook, and then kind of the side of just preparation or ways that we eat or prepare certain foods that makes it Australian. Now, we often just say Pav for short. People know what you're talking about. In Australia, we cut everything short. But the Pavlova is a dessert, I guess, that it's almost like, well, it's meringue, and that, you know when people have those tiny little meringues, the macaroons, and it's all like fancy and expensive? Well, in Australia, we kind of have that as a dessert, but we thought, why does it have to be this tiny little circle thing? And we made it into a big fat cake version. Now, this could range anything from a one-piece snack to an entire wedding cake. So it really depends on how much of it you can eat, how much sugar you can intake too. So, I mean, it's pretty much just made of egg whites and sugar. So, and then you dump stuff on the top. It's like egg whites and sugar seem to be like a really unhealthy kind of thing. So it's like, hey, let's put fruit on top, and then it will become fancier and healthier. So, but then how do you get the fruit to stay on top? I don't know, let's use like cream or whipped cream, something else that makes it unhealthy. But hey, we're not judging, it's a dessert, it's supposed to be indulgent. So I've got one here that's already been pre-made. I'll just grab it for you. It's in my fridge. Now this one isn't so fancy, but yes, it is a pre-made Pavlova. Got it from my Woolies, my Woolworths, local convenience store or grocery shop, supermarket. Wow. As I said, this one doesn't look so fancy. When you make something yourself, it's gonna look a lot nicer, but hey, I'm lazy. I just wanted to get pre-made ones done already, or otherwise this video would take me forever to make. So, as you can see, it's got a little bit of fruit there on top and a bit of cream, and underneath you've got this, it holds together because of the sugar and the eggs, but it's almost like the squishy part of a meringue or a macaroon or that. So it makes a fluffy sugar cake. So I'm gonna dig into this. I'm gonna get myself, let's get a fork and I'll just show you what this looks like. Let's get right in there. Look at that, get some cream, get a strawberry. You can hear it like the bubble, like bubbling from inside there, but it's absolute delicious goodness. Very sugary, I guess, and fatty and all that, but delicious, delicious dessert. So that one, once again, is the Pavlova, or the Pav. All right, so the next one I've got for you, a little bit controversial because, I mean, if you talk to someone from Australia, they'll say it's Australian. If you talk to someone from New Zealand, they'll say it's from New Zealand. What I'm talking about is the Lamington. Now, I've got some here. Once again, not gonna bother preparing it. I tried making these a long time ago and I failed horribly. It's one of those things that if you don't let things cool or put things on the wrong way or that, it just turns to a bunch of mush. So once again, sweet dessert, and I'll just grab it for you right now. Boom, the Lamington. Well, these are Lamington fingers because they're easy to eat, very popular at kind of parties or just afternoon tea or that if you want a small little treat. So what you've got is like a sponge cake, like your basic vanilla sponge cake that then is covered in a layer of chocolate around it. Not so like heavy on the chocolate, depending on what kind of Lamington you get, and not that kind of like icing sugar type chocolate that you get on like a cake. This is like a nice level, like layer of chocolate around it, and then that's covered with coconut or whatever you call desiccated coconut, I think is the right terminology for it. And it's absolutely delicious. It's so light, so I'll just break it open for you. You just see, there's your sponge cake. You can get ones with cream inside or jam inside. This is kind of just a plain one. I mean, traditionally, they more come in like an actual cube. You can get like what looks like a Rubik's Cube as a Lamington. As I said, the finger ones are probably just a bit easier, a bit smaller, better for a snack. But yeah, it just makes an absolute treat of a dessert, and they're just, for lack of a better word, some people don't like it, but it's moist. It's very moist, and it just, that is what makes them so good. Okay, so this next one takes a little bit of preparation, but that's what makes it so important. You see, this thing here, a lot of people that aren't from Australia or didn't grow up in Australia just don't get it. They don't get it at all. But this is, it's an icon. It's an icon. I mean, you insult it, then you're insulting Australia. So we loved it growing up. What it is, it's called fairy bread. Now, fairy bread isn't so fancy. I mean, it's not, it's more of a prepared thing. It's not a recipe as such. It's more just how you prepare it. And people go, that's it? Like, that's it? But I'm gonna show you how to do it. So what you're gonna need some bread, loaf of bread. We don't have a loaf, but you know, however much you wish to consume worth of bread. You're gonna need some kind of spread, margarine, spreadable butter. I mean, I prefer Western Star, it's my favorite. But yeah, you can use like cheap canola spread or whatever you want there for it. You're going to need something, in my opinion, it's easier if you've got a bowl or maybe a plate that's got a little bit of depth, because otherwise things can get messy. And why they get messy? For the next item. You're gonna need hundreds and thousands. Little sprinkles. We call them hundreds and thousands, but yeah, sprinkles, but make sure they're like the crunchy ones. You can get these weird like horizontal decorative sprinkles or the little stars and that. The point is they have to be crunchy. That's why the ball hundreds and thousands one are much better, because they have to have a textural crunch. Now, again, as I said, it's gonna get messy, but you're gonna wanna open this and pour kind of like a layer onto the plate. Whoa. Yeah, nice. Okay, so next, let's get our piece of bread. Oh, it's got a hole in it. That one's not so good. That's not gonna work. Well, it will, but it won't be so pretty. There we go, that one's looking much nicer. All right, so then you're just gonna get your spread and just spread away. You want to probably cover to the edges, because the better you cover it, the more you're going to get on there. So. Beautiful. All right. Now comes the fun part. And I'm assuming you know exactly what's gonna happen here. You take that plate or bowl or whatever of sprinkles, butter, margarine, spread side down, plonk. And then, ha-ha! And then you have fairy bread. Now, if you were doing this at a party, you'd probably cut it into triangles or smaller triangles again. And this is, like I said, this is iconic in Australian celebrations, whether you're a kid or an adult. I reckon if you put this in a room with a bunch of adults, they're gonna make it. Kids love it, but adults, it's like a nostalgic thing. So at kids' birthday parties, you've got these little triangles with essentially sugar and fat sitting on them. Kids go crazy over it. And like I said, you've got to get those crunchy balls, the hundreds and thousands, not your flat sprinkle things. And it just, yeah, you can hear maybe the crunch. From the fairy bread. Now I know some of you are probably looking at that and just thinking, ugh, like gross. You're essentially just putting on butter or fat and then covering it in sugar and eating it. Well, if that's the way you feel about that, you probably are not going to like this next one. You see, there is a snack here in Australia that arguably could be healthy or very unhealthy, how you choose to eat it. Now, jats are a biscuit that is apparently advertises its point on that it's baked, not fried. And that makes it a healthier option than like high sugar, high fat type other crackers, biscuits or whatnot. They're kind of like a cracker, a wafer, like, you know how people, like it's not sweet, like a savory, they're a bit salty maybe, you can get unsalted ones. But the biggest problem with this, and especially to someone like me, is what you choose to do with it. You see, you could spread all kinds of things here on it. You could spread some Vegemite, you could spread peanut butter, you could spread jam, you could spread like anchovy or some kind of pate. The problem is, there is a lot of people out there, myself included, that just eat it with butter or margarine. That we can literally sit down there and spread a bunch of butter or margarine on it and think that it's acceptable. So I will literally sit there with, let me show you, a tub of margarine table spread. Now, I will sit there and literally just scoop it and eat it. It's just fat. It's just fat, but it tastes so good. But just the concept of dipping this cracker or this biscuit, whatever you want to call it, into just a thing of fat and eating it. I don't know why, but it's acceptable. It's acceptable here. I'm going to show you. This is apparently acceptable. To make matters worse, there will be times where someone like myself will sit down to half a box of these. And half a box of these might equate to 1/10 of a tub of this. That's right, sitting down and eating 1/10. Like that's 100 grams of just fat that you're just eating for no reason. Just scooping up and eating. Like, yum! Not mixed with anything to make it more flavoursome, it's just tasting fat. But again, acceptable. Perfectly normal. Alright, so the next one I've got for you is, well, it's more just how you prepare something in general. It doesn't require anything different. It's nothing that necessarily makes it Australian as such, as more just the culture that comes with it. And what that is the sanger, or the sausage sandwich. And In Australia, it's part of life. We sell them at our like fundraisers. You go to like convenience stores, you go to our hardware stores, and you get a sausage sandwich, you get a sanger. And it's more just how it is, because if you don't do it the right way, you'll be punished. So let's get our sausages out. Boom. Classic, just beef sausages. Again, not always the easiest thing to find while I'm in Asia, to find just a nice regular beef sausage. A lot of sausages that I find that I eat in Asia have this kind of more hot doggy taste or Kransky type pop. The beef sausages that I'm used to are very different. So I'm not sure what makes them so different, but yeah, definitely if you haven't had sausages from different countries before and not kind of realize the difference, you'll be shocked. Anyway, let's get to preparing these. So what you want to do, you want to fry off these suckers. An important thing to remember when doing any kind of barbecue cooking is to clang your tongs a couple times before you do anything with them. It's very important, or it won't cook correctly. Now that our sausage is finished cooking, you want to grab a piece of bread again. Now, you don't have to put spread on it if you don't want to. I prefer to have spread, so once again, good old Western Star. All right, now comes the most important part. Let's get the sausage. Now here is the sausage. Now this is the most important part. I cannot stress this enough. See how you got your bread? You have to put it diagonally. Diagonally, you see that? That is the most important part. If you put a sausage horizontally, I can't even think, it makes me sick thinking about it. I mean, we do not have the death penalty in Australia anymore, but you know, I think we're willing to make an exception if you go ahead and put that sausage horizontally. No, not at all. Then you just want to grab your dead horse, as we say, tomato sauce, dead horse, and just lovingly spread over the top. Boom. Just like that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Heaven. True story. A guy actually wanted one of these bad boys so much, he sent a drone to go pick one up from one of our hardware stores, and he received a massive, massive fine for doing it. So that's right, that's how much we love our sausage sangers here. Now the next one I have for you is a beverage. All right, now this beverage is called Milo. Now, we love Milo here. We have it in milk, we have it on ice cream, we have it flavored in cereal, and that I've seen people on videos not understand and put Milo in cold water. I mean, the picture's got it in milk. I'm pretty sure it says in milk on here. So I don't know how people have already screwed up that point. But anyway, let's put those jokers aside and explain that Milo in Australia, okay, we're crazy about it. We're crazy. The people that like Milo do not follow the rules. You see, on the back, it explains that you should be using, what is it, a couple of teaspoons. There you go. 3 heaped teaspoons, not tablespoons, of Milo into a glass. Add cold or hot, not boiling, milk and stir. Okay. Let me show you how the average person will probably have a Milo. This is a tablespoon, not a teaspoon. This is a small cup. Now most people will probably have a bigger cup, but I'm just using a see-through small cup so you can get a rough idea. Alright? Now, from what they said about teaspoons, that's pretty much how much you should have put in by their instructions. Not happening. No. Now, in my opinion, that is probably closer to the ratio of the size of the cup. Literally, you should be almost at about the 1/3 mark. I'm not going to judge anyone that goes more than that. But less, probably not good enough. Milk. Now you see how it's all stuck there? If you did a hot Milo, it would all come up to the, like, you know, dissolve in there. But because it's cold, it's not going to, so you're gonna need to mix it a bit with said spoon. I mean, you could get another spoon if you want, but, oh yeah. But what most people that actually enjoy Milo look forward to isn't the milk, it's the Milo. So all they're looking forward to is the fact that the milk just stops it from being so dry in your mouth. Don't try eat Milo without any kind of liquid, but it's just so the Milo itself can be consumed, and that's the best part, like this. That right there is what most people want when they make a Milo. So whether you're doing a Milo with like 1/3, like I said, or whether or not you're doing it the other way around. I mean, when I think of Milo, it's almost like what they did on South Park, how they did the food pyramid, and then the reality was it was the other way around the whole time. That's why it was so wrong. It's similar with Milo. The fact that they say a couple of teaspoons in a glass of milk, it's almost like it should be a glass of Milo with a couple of teaspoons of milk. That's what it should be. All right, so we got one final one here for you, and this one, it gives me a headache. It gives me a headache that people can't seem to work this out. I know it doesn't have instructions, but my God, it is ridiculous the amount of people that don't seem to understand how we do it here in Australia. And what I'm talking about is Vegemite Toast. All right, Vegemite Toast. Now, obviously, you can't be an idiot and stuff up making regular toast, but I've seen so many people already get that wrong. So, first of all, let's just toast some bread. All right, so we have our toast. Now, first thing you want to do is put on some butter. Now, I like using, I'm not going to argue, you can use margarine, butter, whatever. I prefer the taste of butter, but I like the concept of spreadable butter. It just means I don't rip holes in things. So, look at that, nice bit of butter on there. Yes, you spread it evenly, just as you would normally. Again, I don't see when I watch these videos, some people are just like, yep, it's got butter on it. Like, no, like, just treat it like normal. Treat it like normal, people. All right. So, you've got essentially buttered toast. Then you want to get your Vegemite. You know, you're small, you're slightly larger. I can get tubs like this big if I want. Your squeezable Vegemite. Actually, video coming out soon. Not going to tell you much about it, but there's going to be one coming out with Snarky Guy on this, so see what happens there. But anyway, let's take our Vegemite. Now, this is the part that everyone screws up. And this is the part that I don't get, right? Because every time, like, I hear people, when they recommend it to somebody, they always say, just put a little bit on and give it a try, and nobody does that. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, and spooning it on. Okay, not everyone in Australia eats Vegemite the same way. I like Vegemite, but if I was going to recommend it to someone, I'd recommend getting some, apart from the fact that I'd recommend firstly trying the tiniest bit on bread first. Don't just have it by itself and try the tiniest bit on something. But if you're going to actually prepare a piece of toast, spread it on there with butter or marge. Again, Marge. Marge is margarine for those people playing at home. Now look. Look, it's just lightly spread. It's not crazy. It's not crazily spread. It's just a light. This is what I would recommend for someone first trying it. And then you see how it's maybe a bit more over here. Then okay, start in the corner where there's not so much, and just eat that. It's not hard. It's not hard, people, to just try. But then, yes, there are people that like a lot more Vegemite. Like you could have people that just want like that. And they're gonna spread it like that thick over a whole piece. And yeah, that's, you know, it's good. It's good. But the problem is that people that have never tried it before, haven't grown up with it, don't realize the flavor, are starting like this instead of this. It's just like salt, right? If you're gonna put salt on something, you sprinkle a little bit and then you taste it. And if you need more, you put more. You don't turn the thing into a friggin' like ski resort and just start going, oh, now the meal's so salty. Salt is horrible. No, you go bit by bit and adjust accordingly. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that people don't know how to use something. I know it doesn't have instructions, but nobody explained to me, like, don't scoop salt, like handfuls of salt, onto something before I taste it. So, idiots. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed those kind of foods and snacks preparation that we have here in Australia. There's actually one more that I'd love to mention, but I'm going to be doing it on a future video, so I'll tell you what it is. It is the meat pie. It's very iconic, very, I guess, just the way it is Australian. I'm not necessarily claiming it as our food. I'm sure it was invented in another country, I have no idea, but more just the culture of the meat pie in Australia. So I'll be making a separate video of that coming soon, so I hope you're going to enjoy that one. But anyway, now you've learnt a little bit more about these foods, maybe you can go out and try them yourselves, give it a second chance if you've already turned them down once because you didn't know the correct way to do it. And yeah, if I ever catch you putting a sausage on a piece of bread horizontally, oh, I'm after you. I'm coming. I'm the Straya guy in China, and I don't have a clever sign-off.